actually over here. There's something I wanted to finish up before I left, and that was the Mata Siddhas. This painting is from what they say is the 84 tantric adepts. I just wanted to establish that I did see this, that this number of adepts embodies a number of features to be expected from the early encampment style. But what it really was, that number of 84 was something that was special to me. But there's actually a tradition to it. And if you look at a lot of the art, you'll see things like this. In this art, I could just see the beautiful colors of the pink and green, how they go together. That in a lot of ways, there's things that really painting is really, to me, more about what's not said, what can't be said. Like I think a lot of people look at, most of painting really, people tend to look at the painting, the image, the illustration. But the real value of painting is, I think, what's not said. What other things are in the images that you don't see, but which you still feel. I think that's why work that's really good is probably difficult to define. I mean, you can define why you like it, but in a way, most of anything that's really good that people want to look at has things in it that you can't quite put your finger on. And I think that a lot of this work that survived, I mean, one of the ways you know that work that survived is really good is because it did survive. I mean, when you think about it, when you do a lot of modern art, it's untested. People are throwing out, the gallery dealer, the patrons, the people are hedging the bets, trying to raise the prices of stuff so they make money. Artists are trying to go out there and try to be noticed, and that's not fun. I mean, there's nothing wrong basically with that. But the thing is, a lot of times after 20 or 30 or 40 years, that all fades, and what's left with is the reality that, a lot of what people thought was good wasn't. And it's often difficult to see that when it's actually happening. But one of the things that you see of a lot of work that's been around for, say, 5, 6, 7, 800 years, it's hard to see that people would want to keep something that doesn't still speak to them. And it's easier to absorb lessons later than when they're happening. So as time goes on, a lot of the stuff that was difficult to really embrace at the time it was created is easier to see. And that's why it's often difficult to judge people when they're still alive or when they've just done their work. And even as much as we're speeding up time now, even though things are happening so much faster, I think it's still true that a lot of stuff that's created right now, it's difficult to really evaluate. Just like it's difficult to evaluate the achievements of a president, or difficult to evaluate the achievements of a policy right when they're happening. I think you need perspective. And most of the stuff that you find in museums has an agreement, really, that people have agreed on some level to say this stuff is good. And that agreement is fluid. It can change from time to time. Vermeer was pretty much ignored during, the 17th century. And so Rembrandt wasn't particularly embraced until the 19th century. And then it changed again. And things do change. But I think that's really what makes things good and true. Anyway, I'm ending this visit to the Rubin Museum with the fact that there really were, and I did see it, and it's true, there really were 84 Mahasiddhas, meaning the painting is from a number of features. It was just a way, went back to the early 15th century. I don't know what the 84 really does, in fact. I always thought it was 84 ascended masters or 84 whatever, but it's 84 something. And that's a symbol in this art. It's in there. And as you just look at this fantastic stuff, you can see just how beautiful it is and how much is not said and how much you have to really speaks to the soul. But you know that the fact that it's here, the fact that people care about it, the fact that people worship it, that it had a purpose, is what separates it from just being something you put in the garbage heap or something you put on the wall and never look at. And that it still gives people, that you can still see things in it, I think was what makes it art and what makes it hard to define.